Okay, it's 6 o'clock, we'll call to order.
Dear Lord, we just thank you for today. We thank you for this school year so far, God, that you just have your hand on the staff and the students. Lord, that we would just make the best decisions for our district today, that you would lead us and guide us, and we would bring honor and glory to your name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, we have recognition of guests. Who wants to speak first? Okay.
I brought Ms. Rogers and the band students so they can discuss with you how they did this year in the competition.
Okay, great, thank you.
We had 4 of them show up, so thank you for having us be here. In competition this year, we made it to area contest. Last year, we were ranked 17th out of 20. This year, we were ranked 12th out of 20. So we are increasing in our scores. These kids are just doing an absolute phenomenal job. Last night, this is junior high, not high school, but last night we had a very successful all-region competition as well. The high schoolers will be doing all-region competition next Monday. But these are some really, really hardworking kids, and the band program is definitely flourishing and growing.
Do they have anything to say?
Does that agree with
Okay, well, thank y'all. Appreciate it. Okay, we go to open forum.
There's not any.
If nobody signed up for open forum, we'll move on down the list. Next item is new business.
All right, in our consent agenda, so yearly we're required just to report the training that the trustees have had, and so I've thrown in that spreadsheet that I have, just tracking the training that you guys have done just since I've been here in July, and so we're all doing well. We'll have to try to get that team of 8 training set. I've got some dates we can look at here in a little bit, but that will really wrap up a lot of our training, other than some just additional training y'all can choose on your own. But we'll have all the mandatory trainings covered once we get the team of 8 training done. Also, we just need to approve the minutes from our October 15th meeting. There has nothing been changed from those. And then we have one deed to approve in the consent agenda.
Is there any comments or questions on those 3 items? Well, I have a recommendation, I have a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda, items 1, 2, 3.
I have a motion by Chad, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Doug, all in favor? Motion passes. Regular agenda, approve a donation in the amount of $1,850 from Education Credit.
Yes, and that was the teacher grants that they get. Kayla Deathridge received $750. Caitlin Smith received $350, and Tiffany McGinnis received $750 from Education Credit Union for their use in their classrooms.
Okay, anybody have any questions on that? Well, I have a recommendation, I have a motion.
I move to approve a donation in the amount of $1,850 from Education Credit.
Motion by Doug, do I have a second? Second by Josh, all in favor? Motion passed. Okay, approve a donation in the amount of $10,000 for a STEM grant from Phillips Petroleum Company for STEM dual credit scholarships.
Yes, every year Phillips gives us $10,000 to be used for some sort of a STEM project or something for STEM-related activities for the students. And when I talked to Kenny Morrison this year, we decided that this could be used for our students who are going to dual credit classes to help pay tuition for those who don't get the free tuition. But it will be designated for students taking math, engineering, or INE, those type of classes that go towards STEM activities. And so I'll look at their courses, and then Frank Phillips and I will work out the details of who gets those in. It'll look like scholarships for them.
Any questions? I'll have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve a donation in the amount of $10,000 for a STEM grant from Billings Petroleum Company for STEM dual credit scholarships.
Motion by Logan, do I have a second? Second. Second by Chad, all in favor? Motion passes. Okay, discuss and possible action on resolution of joint election of the cities of Fritz and Sanford.
Yes, so we will need to decide to have that joint election so we can have our board of trustees and everything else will have a name.
Who's on
It is 3 positions, I believe it is Logan,
Stacy,
Stacy, and,
that's it.
oh, was it 3? It's 2? Okay, I thought it was 3.
Or one year is 3.
Okay, 2 then, Logan and Stacy.
All right. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the resolution of joint election with the cities of Fritz and Sanford.
Have a motion by Doug, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Logan. All those in favor? Motion passes. Okay, resolution to cast 4 votes for the Board of Directors for Moore County Appraisal District. So this is something we do every year. Our part of the voting voting entity is just 4 votes total, so we can either cast them all for one person, or we can cast them for 4 people, 3 people, 2, however we want to break it up. I know a couple of these guys personally. I don't know, anybody else have any recommendations for this? Mike Barr, he worked for yeah, I think he retired. He would be a good one. I would highly recommend him if we were put on 4 votes on him. We can spread them out every other.
You said we involved Lions Club and everything over there in the community too.
Okay, so we're gonna do that. 4 votes on Mike Barr. Okay, have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the resolution and cast the 4 votes in favor of Mike Barr for the Board of Directors for Moore County Appraisal District 2026-2027.
Have a motion by Doug. Do I have a second? Second by Josh. All in favor? Motion passes.
I wanted to go out of order for the next one. Can we skip down to the DOI plan? It's on the back, several pages down. Depending on what we do with this, depends on the next one, if we get it in the right order.
Section 7,
Yes,
3, 10.
B10, 7B10. Okay, so we, the district committee met to discuss the DOI plan and just to amend that. There was a new policy in the legislature this summer about the grievance policies that were there for students and or for parents and teachers to extend the timelines for filing grievances. They had up to like 60 to 90 days to file grievances for things, and the current policy, the way it is, you have 10 days to file a grievance, which is a reasonable time to get that done, resolved, and handled. Extending it out 60 to 90 days, and then that's another 60 to 90 days, and then, for all the steps, you don't solve anything. And so the DOI committee met and they agreed, they adopted this policy to keep the grievance policies the way we currently have them in our policy manual. So we had to put that in our DOI. Which we already talked about this. The other thing was the library council, that we weren't going to have a library council, and the way we currently get library materials is good, and that parents, what happens in library council, it takes away the right from our librarians and teachers to have the choice on materials considered in committee form. And then parents still have rights to do that. And then one other thing that was in the DOI that we updated was just language on contracts for if we want to offer a term contract for a teacher who comes in who's had 3 to 5 years experience. We just cleared the language up. It was already in our DOI, but the lawyer thought that the language wasn't quite clear, and so she wanted us to just clear the language up on that. So anyway, the DOI committee approved all of this, and now the final approval is for you guys. The biggest thing was the grievance policy, to get that updated.
Okay. So was all these affected?
Well, it's way, yeah, because some of those are going to be affected depending on what we do for the DOI.
And the DF is one?
Yes.
So we can do this one over, or we
Yes.
need to do it separate?
We just do the DOI for right now.
Okay.
Yeah, just this one. So just the amending the DOI plan.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, I have a recommendation, I have a motion.
I move to approve the amended DOI plan.
Motion by Josh, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Chad, all in favor? Motion passes.
Okay, now we can go back to the big long policy list.
Some of those particular three impacted policies, there's other changes in that too.
Yep, so we're gonna have to, so what, yes, so what I did, with the new legislature, if you include legal and local policies, there's over 1,100 pages of policy changes that will be affected, but this is just the local that we actually vote on. So since we did the DOI approval, we wouldn't want to approve these without knowing that first. Since we did the DOI, we just want to make sure you don't have questions about the policies, and then we'll get our TASB to rewrite the DOI to make sure it reflects what we, or the local policies to make sure it reflects what we just did for the DOI. All of these policies that are in here, I mean, just really we wanted you guys to read through them, and then I'll have them updated based on that DOI that you just approved. So that reflects our policy we're going to continue. A lot of the things through here have to do with, there's language, in term contracts, they updated the language. They changed the spending threshold for superintendents. They upped the spending threshold, I think, to like 50,000 or something like that. It was just up a little bit more just because things are getting more expensive. Trying to think some of the big ones. A lot of them reflect parent rights. Most of them are for parent rights, which we've talked a lot about that anyway, and we've done all those forms. This is just the actual official policies. So I wanted you guys to have all of the policies to look through, and then I'll get the TASB to update them based on our DOI, and then I'll bring them back to the next meeting so you can actually approve the policies. So we'll want to just table the policies for now.
I move we table this till the next January meeting.
Yes.
Second by Doug, all in favor? Motion passed.
Okay, the one policy we have to get done, it has a specific January 1 date that has to be done, is this FEF policy, a local, it's called release time, which when you look at it, when you think about release time of kiddos, not having a class and, they get to leave, but it actually deals with religion and them being able to leave time for them to go, or other types of classes, but mostly it focuses on religion. If they want to go and have some sort of a class, then as a school, we can allow them to be excused to go do this. And so the school just has to kind of know what they're going to do. And so it's something we have to pretty much allow. This just states up how parents do it, like what the steps they follow, how Mr. Jones would approve it, and we wouldn't count it against them, you know what I mean, like for tests and all those kind of things. It gives them the right to go do some of those other things. They call it release time course, but it's really kind of like a religious study course that they get to go do, and we're not penalizing them for that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Not, I have a recommendation, I have a motion.
I move to approve TASB policy FEF local as presented.
Motion by Doug, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Logan, all in favor? Motion passes.
Okay, the next one is TASB CSA regulation, and I'm going to actually recommend to table this one as well. When I got this policy, it was the day that I had to post the agenda, and I tried to reach our lawyer before I posted it, but I couldn't get her. So I put it in there. But what the CSA policy is it's a, they're calling it a bathroom policy, basically. It's for locker room, multi-use or private spaces. It's anywhere a student may undress. And so I did get a hold of the lawyer finally on my way back from Denver over the break and talked to Coach Bennett. So basically, students, say for example, girls' locker rooms. Coach camp, coaches basketball, usually coaches go in the locker rooms at halftime, they have their talks, they do all things. Well, with this new policy, that is illegal. So there's reasons they set these policies up. They didn't think about, you know, male coaches coaching female sports and things like that. And so what we had to do was we have to designate these private spaces now, and we've had to rearrange how like halftimes are handled and all the things. Well, it's going to affect also, like, you know, if moms want to decorate football lockers, can't happen anymore because they can't go in those spaces. We have volleyball stored in girls' locker rooms. Well, even after school, when there's no kids on campus, coaches can't go in there if they're male. They can't go in the girls' locker room to get volleyballs anymore out for, like, to manage equipment. So Coach Bennett's he can talk a little bit about what he's done with all of that.
It also, kind of just to kind of add on to what Kim had to say, is that any team that comes to our district, we are responsible if they have a male coach coaching a female sport or vice versa, a female coaching a male sport. So we have to also take into account of that because of what we don't want to deal with the ramifications of this.
It's very expensive
Senate.
fines.
So what we have done with, we have access to the stage, the back side of the stage from our locker room area. So that is where our volleyball and or basketball at this moment will meet. We've set up chairs, we have easel whiteboards on the way for them to be able to have their meeting space for pre, halftime, and post. We are using the film room as for our additional, or any team that shows up, like last night Dumas was here, they had a male coach. They did all their meetings inside our film room down the hall right there. We also have access to the weight room, which gives us a third option for any person to have a public space if they do have a coach of the opposite gender coaching a sport of the opposite gender. So we have gone to full lengths. I mean, we got our bathrooms changed in the weight room. They don't say male or female anymore. They just say restrooms, so that those are neutral locations. They're single-use bathrooms. So we got that fixed today. We may be going a little bit overboard, but at the same time, it is about protecting, in my opinion, and Kim's opinion, is protecting our district from any of the financials, along with obviously anything our minds can think of negative situations occurring. So.
Yes, and the reason we don't want to do anything with this policy at the moment is just because of the language. There's some confusion about whether the way the TASB wrote it's legal or not, and so we're going to table the policy, the regulation, but we're in compliance as far as our actions as a district. So as long as we're in compliance with our actions to UIL and how we're handling things, we're clear. We're good. So the regulation, once they update it, I didn't realize once the regulation's updated, I actually just signed the regulation myself. It doesn't have to be board approved. So when it's legally written, I'll sign it, but we are in compliance already. So we'll just table this for now, we'll be good.
There are some exemptions to that, right?
Yeah, the exemptions to go into the locker rooms or into the multi-use or the private spaces, Custodians, maintenance can go in to do their job duties. Police officers, emergency can go in to do their duties for emergency responses. And then if there's like a child at age 9 or below that happens to go in with their parent, like if their parent works or whatnot, there's an exemption for that. But those are the only exemptions, so. It's $125,000 per day per incident that you're not compliant. And I thought it was interesting that Coach Bennett was, like telling the students last night about it, and they didn't know. So we've had a plan together immediately, so we don't want to have any situations.
And then every coach is contacted prior to coming here. They are informed of that they have their separate location a week in advance when we send out our ticketing links and everything of that to make sure that we are never going to be potentially in a situation where another team messes up our district, so.
Yeah, we're personally, that's what you're saying, we're personally liable for the.
We're liable for the other.
Correct.
team.
When they come to our place, and then they would be liable when we go to their location.
All righty, well, I move to table this till the next January meeting. I have a second.
Second.
Second by Logan, all in favor? Motion passes.
Okay, next on the agenda, so Senate Bill 11, resolution regarding prayer and Bible or other religious texts. So this one was kind of one of those that I thought was going to be a little bit sticky. I went and met with the pastoral council here in town just because I knew I wanted them to be on board with what I was presenting to you guys as far as this goes. And they were very supportive in the way I'm going to present this. So we have to do a resolution because right now as it is, schools have to allow time for Bible reading with the new legislature, Bible reading or prayer or other religious texts. Well, you can't just say we want to allow Bibles or prayer and not allow other religious texts. And so the other religious text is the part I feel like our community would have a little bit of issue with. So I talked to the pastoral council and they were supportive of me bringing this to you. So if we do not want to allow the Bible readings, then we need to vote, we need nays. If you want to allow the Bibles and the other texts, we're going to say, ayes. So nays are the against the religious. How the wording is written is very weird. But it says, Sanford Fritch ISD shall adopt a policy requiring every campus of Sanford Fritch to provide a period of prayer about reading of the Bible and other religious texts. So if you're saying yes, then you're allowing the Bible reading and other religious texts. If you say no, that means you're not allowing Bible readings or other religious texts in class. With that being said, all of our students have a moment of silence every day that they can use. We don't deny any students bringing the Bible to school if that's what they choose to read. But this is specifically setting a time in school every single day for that to happen.
This is the one they talked about in the meeting with all board members about, it's any religion, doesn't matter. Talking about sticky, that's where it is.
Yes. You can't, if somebody chooses to bring something that's not, what one or the other students in our class typically values, you can't tell them no.
See where it gets difficult.
Or vice versa.
It's one or all. I mean, it's all or nothing. That's why you have to look at it.
Now, I will say, when I met with the pastoral council, they felt, they were for us saying no, because they would rather that happen in their places so they can make sure people get the thoughts from them. But you guys get to decide.
Any thoughts?
Lots of them.
It's all in that direction,
If we all did the nays, if nays passed it, then we still keep the hour or the moment of silence.
That doesn't change.
Beating around the flagpole.
Yeah, I mean,
I
that,
mean, none of that changed.
it won't change any of their current practices, if you all vote no, or if the majority votes no. But if you vote yes, then we have to set a specific time for people to bring their religious texts, whatever those may be, to school.
Well, it's not just bringing it to school, it's giving them a set time.
To read it.
Every day to do it.
Just, yes.
And that,
That's time that they could be focused on school, which is the reason why we're here. And, you know, we get the moment of silence to pray, and, or, you know, whatever the situation is. You still have Bibles in school. If you want to bring a Bible to school, you can still read it in your downtime. But separating time out where we should be learning in a school district, I don't agree with.
no allotted time either for this, right? It's say an hour.
No, we just have to allot it time. We have to set it up and allot it, but it doesn't say.
An amount of time.
Mm-mm. But I will say our days are already pretty,
Pretty full. So, got on
Just a lot, right? Yeah.
We're here for school.
I'm not saying they can't bring Bibles or religious text.
Basically, what I'm saying is they can do that, but it's not going to designate time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have a recommendation, or I have a motion.
we need yeas and nays. Have to know, I have to put in how many y'all, how many yeas and how many nays.
Okay, we'll get that off.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll get that off.
okay.
So,
I'm
Nay.
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 does that need to be a motion?
Probably would not hurt to do
Okay, let's do that. Let's, do I have a motion?
Resolution regarding prayer time, Bible, and other religious text readings in the school day does not pass with 6 nays.
Very good.
Thanks.
Discuss and approve the updated 2025-2026 gifted and talented policy and procedure manual.
Yes, so Ms. Carr went in and she just updated our 25-26 Gibson talent policy. Really, the only thing that changed were names, since we've had some position changes and who's in charge of the different things. That was all that changed. We just have to get it approved each year. We have GT nominations being handled right now, and we'll get testing done starting in January once the nominations are done.
Everybody have a chance to kind of go through that, understand it, any question? This is just a rewrite. Yeah, it's something we've had before. Like she said, that just makes minor changes to it. Okay, I have a recommendation, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the updated 25-26 gifted and talented policy and procedure manual.
Motion by Chad, do I have a second? Second by Josh, all in favor? Motion passes. Down to the next one.
Yes.
Discuss and possible action on 2026-2027 West Texas Food Service Cooperative Interlocal Agreement.
Yes, we just had to renew our interlocal agreement for who provides our food services to the cafeteria. It's just a agreement for that.
Any kind of price difference?
They didn't provide any pricing, it was just have some agreement. I think they actually will send out pricing and stuff later, but I don't know how that works.
Got to pass it to see what's in there.
Yeah, I mean, we just had to decide whether we're gonna take milk or not milk, and, yeah. Which I don't know, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
beneficial when
Last
we
time we
have
did
the audit because the co-op is approved through the certain vendors that you don't have to go out and get all these other things.
I think they
And so
take it
by
out.
going through that, they've done that part for us. And so when we say that, when they request things for the cafeteria audit, it comes from the West Texas Food Service.
All right, I have a recommendation, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the 26-27 West Texas Food Service Cooperative interlocal agreement.
I have a motion by Chad, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Logan, all in favor? Motion passes. Budget amendments.
I guess stop talking, Courtney.
So there's two separate ones. We did an amendment back in August on the accruals, and being a newbie, I didn't have my figures correct. So we're basically having to go back and reapprove that amendment. We needed to add some more money into our sped department, $14,200 that was overspent. And then we moved the money out into the cafeteria to cover the deficit, but Mark said it would look better if it also reflected on the 199, and so I had to put that in there, and so that's the 82,000 that we had to move out to cover the deficit. So Mark was giving us grace for the audit, and that's why we had to bring that one back to you all on that. And then on the second one, that is for the current year. So we received an invoice in the mail from Purdue, Brandon and Mott, and they do a PVS, which is a property value study. The appraisal district goes out and appraises our county, gives us values that they think it is, and those values that they give us never match up with what the state says. So then the state goes out and does a test, and if we pass it, then they're okay with the values. If we don't pass, then they assign state values, which they've always done. And so what happens with those state values, the higher the state value, the less money the school district gets. And so what Purdue, Brandon, and Mott does is they go out and they basically appeal it for us to try to get us more money. And on this particular year, which was the 2023, and the reason it's so late and we're just now getting that is because it was all crazy that year whenever the property values wasn't going up, wasn't going down, da-da-da-da-da. And so they just got those out. And whatever money that they get for the school district, we have to pay 10% to our attorney. And so by them doing that, they got our school district $718,450 extra dollars that we may have lost if they had not done that. And so needless to say, the invoice is $71,845, and we didn't know this was coming around. It was something that Richard had set up, I believe. And so when we got the bill, we were like, what is that about? And so it wasn't budgeted. We now know that we probably need to put an amount at least in there where we can kind of cover it, because the appeal for the 2024 is already in process, and so they will get us that. So we just really need to pay the bill. We have it in our fund balance. We also have it because of our budget was a surplus budget. It's not a deficit budget, so it's there. So we say, let's get it taken care of and not push it into next school year where we'll have 2 years that we'll have to pay for. Had they not done this, had we opted out, then it could have cost the school $1 million, even though they only got us 718 with all the different things. She said we could have probably lost out on $1 million. So it is a good thing that we do it. It's just when we have to pay it, it's kind of a shock. But if we're aware of it and we budget for it, then it's not as much of a shock. I also talked with Miss Carla Pope Osborne, and she said she would be willing to come and do a workshop maybe with y'all to kind of let y'all know, because this was new to me and she wanted me to understand it so I could explain it to y'all. But if y'all needed more explanation, she said she would be willing to come and do kind of like a legit workshop for y'all, so y'all can see why we really need to push our appraisal district to start getting better appraisals, because last year it went opposite. It didn't go for a better, it went for a worse. And she said it doesn't look good, so.
For 2 years in a row. We're
Yeah.
not,
Because it's not changing, it's going the other direction. But, so that's what the budget amendment for, is gonna go into 41, which is the general administration for lawyer fees.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
good payment.
All right, I have a recommendation, I have a motion.
I'll move to approve the budget amendments as presented.
Motion by Doug, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Logan. All in favor? Motion passes. Discuss and approve the SFISD targeted improvement.
All right, so we're approving a targeted improvement plan, even though we're not in targeted improvement. This is a very frustrating thing for me to even bring to you guys. But when I got the email, I almost flipped out when I called this lady about this thing, because we got out of targeted improvement, but the reason we're having to do this is because we applied for the LASSO grant to get the Bluebonnet math materials. And so part of getting a grant means you have to write a targeted improvement plan, which is silly because we're not in targeted improvement. So we had to send out surveys to parents. Region came and met with Jennifer and I. We filled out a bunch of information, and this plan right here has to be approved by you guys, showing what we're working on, the Bluebonnet materials, what we hope to get out of it. We set some goals for our math scores, which, I mean, we already had those done because Ms. Carr has like a 48-page plan she had to write for Bluebonnet materials that already kind of did all of this. So anyway, as a formality for the state and the money we receive, we have to have this approved by you guys. And we'll do it again in the spring. We'll approve another one. It won't change, it'll be the same plan, she said, but we'll reapprove it and then submit it to the state, saying that we're doing what they're asking for this money.
How much was it?
200,000. 100,000 of it went to Region 16, and then the rest is used for materials, curriculum, mostly professional development. It's a lot for the teachers. There's a lot of professional development. It's going really well. Ms. Carr can probably tell you a little more about that. She's on there. She's there a lot, working with the teachers, but we're seeing some pretty good results, and I think she's going to talk about that anyway.
Okay.
In her.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Not, I have a recommendation, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the SFISD targeted improvement plan. As presented.
Motion by Chad, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Doug, all in favor? Motion passed. Campus reports. Y'all had a chance to read through these. We'll skip the elementary and junior high. Mr. Jones, you have anything you want to add to yours?
No, sir.
Okay. Coach Bennett?
No, sir.
Nothing to add? Okay. District reports, business manager.
So our November, our target is 25% of what we have budgeted. As you can see, there are a few yellows that were over. We're not over by a substantial amount, except for the 99, and that is a payment that we always have to make to our appraisal district. And it's just based on when it comes out of our budget, because we're paying for quarterly, so it will always kind of be over. The co-curricular, again, sports kicked back up, and they're buying supplies for future sports. So we may be buying baseball items, not that we are, but I know that they bought basketball items back when volleyball and football was going, and so that made that percentage increase a little bit. Kids are traveling gas isn't cheap. That's why those are. So if y'all have any questions on a specific one, I can answer that. But overall, we're sitting at 26.22% of our budget is what we have expended. And it was 25, so we're pretty good.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Curriculum director.
So, I'm just gonna talk about, again, what's been going on with math. As we talked about, we're doing the Bluebonnet math at the elementary. And so, the first one there is the latest second grade math test, which looks really good. If you look at the STAR performance part of it, that second, little chart, we would only have had one kid that would have failed based on STAR standards, so that's really good. So the goal, of course, we want everybody to pass, but that's not usually realistic, but the goal is to have 10%. That's like the big goal. Or less than 10% kids failing, so. Then third grade is there too, and that also looks really good. If you'll notice on that second chart, there were only 2 kiddos that were below approaches, so that looks good. Fourth grade looks just as good. 2 kiddos that were below approaches there. But when we get to 5th grade, it doesn't look quite as good. So if you'll notice, that one is separated out a little bit more between a high not approaches, low not approaches. So we had 27 kids that didn't pass on that test. So yesterday I was at the elementary and I did like the PLCs with all the teachers with Brooke Moffitt, our math coach. And we did go over that test that's listed there. And all the tests are Bluebonnet tests. They come with the curriculum. They're loaded into DMAC so the teachers can give the test in DMAC and get the data for these charts. But this test consisted of only 7 questions. And of the 7, 4 of them were not multiple choice. So I just wanted to, one of the questions says, on Monday, Lily bought 5 1/3 kilograms of plant food. She used 2 1/2 kilograms for her carrot plant and 3/4 kilograms for her pepper plant. How many kilograms of plant food does Lily have left? So first they had to change the mixed numbers into improper fractions. Then they had to get common denominators. Then they had to do all the subtraction. Then they had to switch it back into a mixed number. So that's a lot of room for error. So that's kind of an explanation, I think, on why, it wasn't multiple choice, so they had no idea once their work was done if their answer choice was in there. So that's kind of an explanation. The test is hard, so we're hoping that, the rigor is up there when they get to the STAR test. They're just going to breeze right on through it. But we did meet with Ms. Dethridge yesterday and went over all of her stuff, and she's doing a great job. So, all right. So that's Bluebonnet. Then when we get into junior high, the next page is 6th grade. So remember, at the 6th grade level is when we have to start pushing kids into honors math. We have to push the top 40% of kids into honors math. So that's basically all of your kids that meet and master. So the regular 6th grade math class are your approaches and did not meet kids for the most part. So the scores for 6th grade math, 6th grade and 7th grade math are going to look lower than other grades. So, but the regular 6th grade doesn't look terrible. I mean, if you look at the high not approaches and low not approaches, it's 8 kids. So it doesn't look too terribly bad. When you look at the honors kiddos, they're all in the approaches high, meets and masters, which is where we would expect for them to be because they are the honors kids. Then the next page is 7th and 8th grade math. So 7th grade math does not look good. But I have met with Miss Brown at the junior high, and I have gone into Mrs. Smith's classes to kind of, watch her and see what she's doing. And then before she gives her next test, we are all going to meet just to make sure that because Ms. Smith is new to DMAC. That's not something that she used in her previous district, just to make sure that the questions she's pulling from DMAC line up with what she's teaching, because that can kind of be tricky to make sure that that all lines up together. So we are working on that. And then 8th grade math looks pretty good there. I had 12 kids that didn't meet. And then the last page is algebra. I did pull 2 algebra tests just because I was pretty excited about what we see in algebra. I've been in Mr. Sellinger's class several times, and he's doing an excellent job. This first test that he gave, he had 8 kids that were below in the did not meet area, which is at 10%. And then the second test, he had a few more in that did not meet area. In that second test, that's when they're really getting into like linear equations and things like that. So that is a little bit harder, but for the most part, I'm very pleased with how algebra looks. So we're hopeful for all of those things.
And that being, our algebra scores have been very low here lately over the last several years, and so we're hoping with this really strong algebra foundation, that's just going to lead up into Algebra 2, college algebra, and those higher level math classes too, which that's also the blue one is supposed to be really helps upper level math quite a bit because it gets their thinking, for more broad thinking, it gets kids thinking differently. So we think it's going to be just a big progression for our math scores to increase.
Anybody have any questions? Director of Operations.
Okay, bond update. The elementary's finished, and we moved in the classrooms. I know they were still putting some whiteboards and things up earlier in the week, and then they'll do the pre-bid walkthroughs the week before we go on Christmas break. They'll come and do those. And then I want to say it was like the second week of January or so is when they'll come and present, and then we'll approve the guaranteed maximum price, the GMP, and so they can get started on. They'll start on the junior high and do the fascia, and then that'll be the next project. And then they'll work over to the high school after basketball season and start on the gym and those bathrooms and around the library area. And then after that, in the summertime, they'll start on the band hall. We did find out, I talked to the architect today, and he went through our asbestos book, and we're gonna have to do some abatement in the band hall before we can start construction. So we'll do that first thing, once school gets out, and get it abated so they can get started there. But and then on the transportation side, our Chris applied for 2 grants for the older route buses. These will pay 80% of a new bus, and so we're just waiting to hear back whether or not that got approved. So I think it has to do with like emissions and that type of deal, but the buses have to be, ones that you use in the route. It's not for backup. So we only had 2 buses eligible, so he put in grants for both of those, so we're just waiting to hear that. And then the federal impact grant, I haven't heard from our contact. I've emailed him since the government shut down, but I haven't heard anything, so I'm just waiting to hear from him to see what I need to do on my end. So as soon as I hear from him, I'll get rolling on that. So if I haven't heard from him by Monday, I'll send him some more emails. And he won't answer the phone, so I mean, no point in calling, but we're working on that as well. So.
Okay. Any questions? Ms. Searles?
All right, so just to piggyback off of the bus thing, so Senate Bill 546 is one of the things they talked about this summer, and we're having to get cost projections of how much it would be to retrofit any buses that we currently have that don't have the 3-point harness. And so once we get all those, we have to have actual estimates. We'll bring those to you because I have to present to you what the cost would be for us to get all our buses like that. And then it has to go to, we have to update it in Sentinel so the state knows. We don't know yet whether or not it's going to be mandated because it's an unfunded mandate at the moment. And so right now they're saying most buses are about $30,000 to $50,000 to retrofit for seat belts for the state standards.
Well, they changed that. The guy from Bluebird came yesterday and said that it would be 60, he thinks, because you had to replace the floor in the bus as well. And so he said I would plan on at least 60,000 a bus.
So, yeah. And most of our buses that need it aren't worth $60,000. So, anyway, so that's why the grants, we looked at some of those grants to help with that as well. But anyway, we'll get you some numbers because you guys have to have those, and we have to have it presented and submit the state. What they're thinking is the state may end up just saying there's no money for this, and so it's not going to be mandated that you have to do it, but we don't know what they're going to do. So there's a lot of work we have to do for the state to say maybe yes or no, we're going to have to do it or not. But we needed the route buses anyway, so that those bids are going to be something we need to look at. Anyway.
Going forward, the buses will have a minute, right?
Well, it's not mandated, so it's a $7,000 option to add the 3-point harnesses. So if you're smart, any new buses you get, you'll go ahead and make sure they have those, because the other issue a lot of schools are having, they just bought new buses and it wasn't mandated, and so if you change anything that avoids your warranty, we're not in that set for anything. But there's a lot of schools frustrated right now because if they retrofit seat belts, all their bus warranties are void. And so I'd be very angry if I just bought a new bus and then my warranty was void because I had to retrofit. So
70 to 60 is quite a difference to come.
$7,000 option, but it's
That's a
$60,000.
yeah. So they were telling us if you are getting a new bus, make sure you do the $7,000 option to get those seat belts.
I'm gonna get the seatbelt business.
Exactly. So just know we'll be talking more about seatbelts and buses later. So I'm going to go back up. 4-day week discussion. So whenever we met with the committee to talk about the DOI plan, we did a little bit of discussion just about 4-day school week, what their thoughts were. Talked to lots of superintendents about it. All the supes around here that are doing it have had nothing but great things to say about it. It's been great for motivation. It's been great for their communities. All of the school districts I talked to, very similar as far as no child care. The community has loved this. It hasn't been an issue with the no child care. The issue with meals on Fridays, Spearman was one of the superintendents Garrison and I had a Zoom with. Had meals available for students on those Fridays that they didn't have school. Nobody came to pick the meals up. So, there's options to help, snack packs and all those things. But we've had some just discussions. We want to just come to you guys and say, are you good with me continuing on? What we would like to do with the district committee is have a town hall meeting in probably January to keep the discussion going, to see how the community feels, get them involved with the input. I'd like to have you guys and available if you're around for some of you, and the district committee, just so it's not just me fielding questions, but just so we can kind of go back and forth, getting community feel before we actually build these schedules. But we do see a lot of benefit from the schedules. They're saying, from what all the data they're gathering, is there's not a lag in accountability. Student growth has not dropped. They're actually seeing some schools are improving when they have the 4-day schedule. But we want to make sure our community is on board with whatever we decide to do.
How does it impact your extracurriculars, your band, your football, whatever? How has it impacted it all, or?
So I was at, the previous district I was a part of the committee that moved to a 4-day work week, and they did end up approving it in that district. Depending on the day at which it is chosen, typically when you have college, with our kids going up to Frank Phillips, they don't have class on Fridays, so Friday would be optimal typically in a district very similar to ours with that. You have very little drop off when it comes to the athletics or extracurriculars, because you still end up bringing the kids up on that Friday, because that is a contest day. You can have your meetings, you can lift them, you can play your games. Typically, schools that I've talked with that had Mondays, they had more issues because it was just a practice day, so they had more issues with kids missing. But every coach I've spoke with that has been a part of a 4-day has had zero issues with it being, for them, I mean, some have had it on Mondays, some have had it on Fridays, but for us, with the way that we do our training schedule, that would be a run day for us, more of a cardiovascular change of direction day or a contest day, if it was a Friday. Mondays would change substantially. That's more of our lifting, that's our power leg day. So we would have to find some solution for that if we do move forward with anything of this nature.
I didn't know if it's taking band on, like I said, even for band on, if you could make them come up here, or, I know you can't make them, but,
Yeah, you can't make them move.
that they were still eligible to practice,
Yes.
whatever they were doing.
So
whatever it is.
we can offer practices, it doesn't prohibit that. We can offer the practices and they can come, we can still do games. It doesn't change any of that, so.
Kind of like, Miss Grady's class, when they go do their time, they travel a lot,
Mhm.
and traveling on Fridays, I
Yes.
didn't know how that would.
Yeah, they still can travel. It doesn't affect any of that. And, we've talked to lots of schools about how they've handled, like at-will employees and how they've dealt with salaries, and so I've got a lot of information about how all that's handled, and we can get more into all this later if you want. I just want your permission to continue the discussions, get the community involved, so we have more community input, because we'll need to start working on, which we have some mock we have mock calendars kind of proposed, and they're really nice looking calendars for our district for next, for the next school year. Mr. Garrison mocked one up for us. But just want to make sure you're with me still continuing to get more input from the community. That way we can continue moving forward in the process. If this is how our community wants to go, and you guys are good with it as well.
Yeah, I think the more information we got,
Just since we're on the subject. Does it impact at-will people?
So all the school districts we've talked to, every single one of them have kept at-will pay as it is. They have to work 36 hours to get their 40-hour pay. They have not docked anybody's pay, so which actually looks like you're raising their hourly rate because they're getting a little bit more. With the understanding that if the school district has to go back to a 5-day week because our commissioner is somewhat opposed to the 5-day week, he's turning around to it a little more because as accountability results are coming out being good. But if we have to go back to a 5-day week, the pay doesn't change back. So the pay stays where it is no matter which way we go. My thought as well, I talked to Spearman, and I've talked to Dimmitt and some other superintendents. Our thoughts is if our ratings drop, if our accountability ratings drop, then we don't go back to a 4-day, we go back to a 5-day. So if we see a dip in grades and things like that, then we would let teachers know we'll change back, and let parents know when we change back. But they're not seeing drops in scores with the 4-day. They're actually seeing some improvement because of, you make the teachers and the students understand if we're going to be here 4 days, we're going to work hard all the time. And we should be doing that anyway, but everybody gets a little lax sometimes, maybe on Fridays or whatnot. But if we're going to be here 4 days a week, we're going to put 100% effort or 110% effort in those 4 days. And if our scores drop off, we're going to go back to regular, something better. But we haven't taken away from our at-will employees because we don't want anybody to have a pay cut based on something like this.
What is a 4-day time-wise?
There's a couple different options. I mean, we would have to extend the day a little bit. What was it, about 20 minutes, 15 minutes maybe each day, but you have to go. We're going to need to start earlier in August, which helps also, with football and stuff. It helps get the kids here already sooner. But then we would need to go. We still will get out before Memorial Day. So it's just a few weeks longer, but the day is a little bit longer. You can flex it. I mean, we could add, we could do less minutes on the day and go beyond Memorial Day into June if we wanted to. It's all dependent on community preference and all those things. There's total flexibility. Some schools have done the first month, they've done 5-day weeks and then switched to 4-day weeks after that to get some of those extra times in. You could do 6 weeks worth of regular, and then I'm a little bit hesitant to do something and then switch it up because once parents need that structured schedule for childcare and all that. If we're going to have them to get childcare, they need that structure. But that's one way to get in some of those extra minutes without having to go too long in the day. You know, we don't want to go too much longer in the day for our kids. Our days are long, so longer, you know, length of time, weeks would be probably ideal, but there is some flexibility, and that would be like, we would want to talk with community, what would you prefer, like, and have some samples for them to look at as well.
Any comments, questions?
So we'll kind of continue more discussions about that. The Watchdogs training, or the Watchdogs training that was presented to us, or the, I don't want to say training, but program that was brought to us, Ms. McCowan had sent out a survey, and I have that, I don't know if I forgot to send it to you. Parents are somewhat interested in that. We do have people that would like to volunteer here and there for that. Their main concerns were that how are we going to fingerprint, background check, volunteers, you know, that are going to be around the kids. And so, you know, we've looked into some of the things that we've used, and we've talked with TPA about that. The other concerns parents had were, you know, because DOG stands for dads, we were making sure we weren't going to be leave out moms or, you know, grandparents. We just said Watchdogs because that was the name of the program, but we wouldn't exclude volunteers, you know, if we had people that wanted to volunteer for that as well. So we do have some interest, you know, we would want to make sure it would just be volunteer basis. But really the only thing is we've kind of talked a little bit about it. Probably 11 to 1 would be our main focus because that's when we have cafeteria, you know, we could have extra eyes in the cafeteria, recess, those kind of things would be good. So it would be short term, it wouldn't be, we've got plenty of other things, people walking the halls and doing things right now with our police force and things walking the halls at the moment. So we feel like the cafeteria time would be ideal. And we do have fingerprinting, we'll talk about that a little bit here in the security closed session about how we can handle that. But we have gotten feedback from the dads or parents, moms, about just giving some extra eyes on campus. So we'll talk about that a little more, but we do have some survey. I'll send that survey out to y'all so you can see the results. Just so I was going to ask you guys, so custodians, maintenance, technology, they work year-round. We never get a break. There's some burnout, things like that. And so with your approval, I'd like to have our maintenance, custodians, and technology just get the actual whole Christmas week off with their families like the rest of the district. They're caught up on a lot of projects. They'll still have that next week. They'll come to work, but it gives them an extra 2 days with their families and just have some family time to help prevent burnout. And they wouldn't have to use their own vacation. They would just gift it to them like the rest of the district. Y'all are good with that. All right, team of 8 at the top. I talked with Region 16, and I just asked for dates for Wednesdays in January and February, possible team of 8 that we could maybe get that in. I don't know how turnarounds or anything are going, but these are dates that won't work for them. They said all other dates he can probably make work. And maybe before we decide that, our architect needs us to have a meeting the week of January 12th so he can present the bond. So we might need to decide that one first and then do the team meeting. I told him typically we meet on Wednesdays. He said Wednesday would be fine, but he said any time from the 12th through the 15th for our next meeting, our January meeting, so he can present the bond projects, the bids and everything. Yes. We can just do it in the regular board meeting.
On the 14th.
That's what I told him typically, but he said, yeah, that would work, but anything 12, 13, 14, or 15. But we do have basketball 13th, and that's all I see.
14th works for me.
Yeah.
14th. So we can have a regular meeting the 14th, and I can get the architect here that day. So then mark out the 14th for the Oh, that one won't work for them anyway, so that's perfect. So Team of 8 training, is there any dates that look good for you guys for Team of 8? Couple hours, we'll have a meal, and then we'll get a 2-hour training.
And their dates were,
The dates they can't do it, I told him to look at Wednesdays. He said everything else, every other Wednesday should work for him.
May, June 27th.
Yeah.
yeah, we got to sneak that up there. February. I mean,
February.
February.
It's crazy we're looking out that far back. We get so busy.
That gives us in before, really.
Yeah.
It's 11th of February, you work for everybody on that?
That's for the team A.
Yes.
Yes, should be good.
Okay, I'll get in touch with Region and let them know if we're ready on it. All right, as you can see from attendance, we're up a little bit for our final degree in attendance. And the calendar in the back, there is a whole lot going on. Lots of games. Band concerts coming up the 18th. There's a STEM night at junior high. So the STEM night at junior high, we have applied for an elementary at least 3 years now. I think I've applied back when I was principal there. They bring us big mobile truck, TEA does, and they bring a big mobile truck out, and they have all kinds of experiments, and it's a big lab on wheels. And we've applied and applied and applied, and we've never been able to get it. And this year, junior high was able to get the STEM lab, so they're going to do like a family STEM night and this big truck, and they're going to have activities through the day with the kids, and so it should be really, I say it's pretty cool. So I'm excited about the STEM lab coming from Austin.
You got a call meeting December 15th on here?
Originally, that was when the architect wanted to have that, so mark that one out. Yes. Oh, wait, we might need one, so Rusty can talk.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, I forgot.
Have one, no. Have one day.
We don't have a call meeting yet, but yeah. That one was originally for the architect, but something else has come up now. So we might need it for. That's all I had to say.
Okay. Looks like we covered everything I would normally cover, so I do want to bring up, of course, everybody here for Stacy's husband passed away. Do we want to do something as a board for them?
I don't think so.
Okay, I can take care of it. Okay. I think that's all I had. Yeah, I want to thank you guys for your participation while we were doing that kind of a difficult vote we had. I think when you really understand what they're wanting or what they're saying, it kind of makes sense for us to vote the way we did. I was thinking a lot about that in the last few days when I read we had that on the agenda, because you could look at it two different ways. But I think the decision we made the right one. So I guess we'll call us into closed session to discuss personnel and to hear complaints against certain personnel or public officer, Texas Government Code 551.071, discuss superintendent evaluation instrument, and the deployment of specific occasions for implementation of security personnel, critical infrastructure, security devices, Texas Government Code 551.076. Call us in at 7:15.
She unlocked it down too.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, you gotta see.
Yeah, that's more county. So do we wanna, are you gonna wanna ask about it? Or do you want me to wait? Oh, I'm gonna wait and see what the guy says tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you about the call meeting. So just before we start, we're not on the way.
Call us back in session at 7:59. We have any action to take out of our closed session?
Yes, the superintendent evaluation instrument, the 2526.
Okay, we have a recommendation, I have a motion.
I move to approve the updated superintendent evaluation instrument as presented.
Motion by Chad, a second.
Second.
Second by Doug. All in favor? Motion passes. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? 8 o'clock.
On the dot. You was wondering why I was in a hurry.